So they're using texts which demonstrate that people were shocked, that people were surprised, and that they were texting each other and texting the president, look what's going on, what are we going to do about this, and so forth and so on. And Mark Meadows is the chief of staff. And this stuff was sent to Mark Meadows. Does it sound like Mark Meadows was in on it? If Don Jr. is pleading with his dad to say something, then obviously Don Jr. didn't know about it in advance, or these Fox hosts didn't know about it in advance, nor did the president, nor did his chief of staff. Right?
This is where freedom rings.
If you believe in America, if you believe in the Constitution empowers us. It's a new day. America's back. America's back, and America's going to get strong again. We're going to defend America, and we're going to defend our interests.
Liberty's voice, Levin TV.
Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Levin TV, finally. As I mentioned to the radio audience the other day, I actually got the China plague, a.k.a. COVID-19, a.k.a. coronavirus, a.k.a. the Wuhan virus. Anyway, after the first day, we got the monoclonal antibiotic immediately, and things started to improve. The first day was probably the worst flu I ever had. That's what it felt like. You can't get comfortable. First you're hot, then you're cold, then you're this, then you're that. But anyway, I had the Johnson & Johnson vaccination. I had the Johnson & Johnson booster. When I went to Costco to get my weekly hot dog, they were there. I got the booster shot about, 6 weeks ago. It takes about a month to take hold, so it had time. And I had a different issue, and I think that knocked out my immune system, which made me vulnerable to this. But what do I know? I don't know. All I know is Florida the governor's brilliant. He's got these centers all set up, and you go into the center, you get the antibody immediately. It's 4 shots, here, 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 and then you wait an hour. They see if there's a reaction. Some places have an infusion that takes 4 hours. They did not. I wasn't going to wait 4 hours anyway. And I have to admit, at least in my case, everybody's different. That's why you talk to your doctor, not TV doctors, not radio doctors, your doctor. And I started to get better within 24, 36 hours. I mean, I was tired and so forth, but so it was a very, very bad flu on the first day. That's how I felt. And I had no idea where we got this from. I have no idea why I got it. People have had it, family and friends and so forth, but I didn't have it from that. But I think this other thing, which I'm not going to get into, knocked out my immune system. And there you go. Everybody makes their own decisions now. Now I'm naturally immune. And you know what that means? That means, according to the CDC, it's irrelevant. And yet that is the strongest immunization you can get. So I've got the vaccine, got the booster, natural immunity. Now what? Now what? Should I move to Iceland? I don't know. I think I'm okay. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I did an interview of President Trump from Mar-a-Lago. He asked me to interview. It was an exclusive interview initially. Now you see everybody's interviewing, and that's a good thing. And among other things, he has this wonderful new book. It's basically a coffee table book. It is a substantial book of photos from his presidency, the journey with him. And you can go to 45books.com, 45books.com, and order a copy. They're signed and unsigned, depending on what you're interested in, if you act quickly. And they're self-producing it, which is also genius, the entrepreneurship behind him and his family. It is a beautiful book. It tells the story of his presidency, the journey with you, as he puts it. And it was a wonderful time. It went on for 70 minutes, so we turned it into 2 parts on the Sunday show. The first was about 3 weeks ago, and the second was about 2 weeks ago. Well, Jimmy Kimmel didn't like it very much. So he and his 412 comic writers got together and came up with something that was very bizarre. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel is a weird dude. Jimmy Kimmel in the past has, done jokes and worn blackface. He's done jokes that were misogynist. But Jimmy Kimmel now is all PC and woke, baby. He's down with the revolution. Or is it up with the revolution? Or screw the revolution. But anyway, he's not funny. He's not funny. These guys now are all PC. They've destroyed late night comedy. I used to watch it. I used to love it. I used to really enjoy Carson and Leno, Letterman, before he became, a Buddhist monk. And then the other one I like too, can't remember everybody's name, doesn't matter. So, but today, these are reprobates. These are backbenchers. These are not funny people, especially Spock there. Stephen Colbert, with the one ear that sort of points to the South Pole. I don't know what's going on there. And then you have others whose names I don't recall, who are always backbencher comics. And then Jimmy Kimmel, not very funny, in my view. Doesn't get much ratings. Can you imagine what we would do on network TV? I mean, network TV, you're in everybody's home. And they don't have to pay. It's free, as we well know. It's not cable. And there we have Gutfeld on cable who beats these guys regularly. It's because they're awful. They're not, and it's one thing to make politics funny and comment on it. Mark Twain would do that sort of thing, and others. But these guys aren't funny. They're like Hillary Clinton in drag. They're boring. They're stupid. So nobody, their ratings are dead. Maybe they'll move over to CNN. You never know. So my fantastic group here at Levin TV, while I was not on last week, spent some time putting together our short little montage for Jimmy Kimmel. And the guest star is Hunter Biden. So I hope you'll enjoy this little montage. Ready? Go. Hunter's laptop. What's on it? Oh my.
A lot of the things that you detail happened here in this neighborhood, like right around here. Yeah. It was like you were doing crack at the places that I eat.
Yeah. Well, I not intentionally. I wasn't stalking you.
No, I didn't think you were.
We don't judge here.
I feel like I learned a lot about crack, and I know that sounds weird. I learned how to get. I really think I could get it now, thanks to your book.
Well, I hope that wasn't the message.
This is on the laptop.
I see what's on the inside, Jerry. He just sees what's on the out. You know what I'm saying? So you slept with her, too? Yeah, we're in a sick situation right now. We need her to choose, Jerry. Yeah. We need her to choose. He's such a drunk. I'm the better man for her, Jerry. He's just like a baby. He's slumming. He pees the bed. Who wants anything with that? He pees the bed. He pees the bed.
2 fifths of Jack and a case of beer, you get that way.
Why don't we bring her out, is what I'm thinking. And here is Pearl.
This message will self-destruct in 10 seconds.
There was more on the laptop. Before the show, luckily I looked at it, crew. There was more on the laptop that was a little bit more risque. Without clothes, with spaghetti, with all kinds of stuff going on there. But I decided we have some class here. We're not going to lower ourselves to Jimmy Kimmel's level. So we will make that publicly available all over the internet. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you pass it along. And we hope Jimmy Kimmel enjoys it. But we don't pass judgment. If he wants to walk around wearing bras and so forth, then who am I to judge? All right, let's jump in. Speaking of the morning schmo, this guy really is a creep, a lousy person as human beings go. Mark Meadows is a religious man. He's evangelical Christian. He won a seat to the House of Representatives. He wasn't expected to win during the Tea Party. He was one of the leaders of the conservatives in the House who tried to topple and did, in fact, Boehner because he was not really responsive to the electorate and to the people and was trying to destroy the Tea Party and the Tea Party members. So he's a gutsy guy. And over time, President Trump got to know him and invited him into the White House to be chief of staff. And he was a superb chief of staff. His temperament, he's a very kind man. He's worked with the other side, you know, the Marxists, if necessary, to try and advance the ball. Just a very decent guy, law-abiding guy, self-made man. And now he's back out of government. And so this Stalinist committee, the so-called January 6th committee, with the insurrection, you know, they keep regurgitating that because that's what propagandists do. They're out to destroy Trump and they're out to destroy the people around him. And they're trying to compel them to testify in depositions, not in public, in depositions, and to provide them with all their text messages and emails and phone logs and all the rest. But they don't have any real predicate for this. They're throwing a very broad net, trying to humiliate and embarrass people and do that sort of thing. And you don't typically move from holding somebody in contempt in Congress to a criminal indictment. But there we have Merrick Garland, the man who would chase down parents from sea to shining sea and would like to, who is extraordinarily political and radical, a really disastrous attorney general. He moves immediately to do the wishes of the Democrat Party, which so many of these prosecutors do, whether they be in Manhattan or Albany, and here in the case, Washington. And you don't really move to indict somebody right away. You adjudicate the issue. They've raised serious constitutional issues that deserve adjudication, potentially all the way to the United States Supreme Court. So you don't pull the trigger for indictment and indict people because they're not complying with these outrageous subpoenas. And I heard somebody say, maybe it was one of the freaks on this show, but I don't remember, said that until Congress really gets the big dogs and throws them in jail, we can't really rely on our elections or the people who support them will keep doubting our elections. And I thought, does this individual know Congress doesn't throw people in jail? It's really shocking how stupid people in journalism, so-called, really are. But they have no concern about due process, no concern about separation of powers, no concern about the fishing expedition, no concern that Nancy Pelosi appointed every single member of this committee in violation of standing House rules. You don't get to pick the Republicans you want. So these are some of the issues that are being litigated. The breadth of the request, executive privilege, separation of powers, the violation by this committee of traditional and customary House rules. And so they're passing the Democrats, this committee. You've got the two unhinged never-Trumpers in Cheney and Kinzinger, both of whom are like unhinged. So you get these 9-0 votes. It goes to the full House. The Democrats have like a 3 or 4 vote margin. Then they vote to hold them in criminal contempt. It goes over to the Democrat who runs the Justice Department, and he pulls the indictment trigger. It's unbelievable. An executive privilege, this is a very important issue. We talked about it before, and I'll just hit it briefly again. Just remember, ex-presidents do have some executive privilege rights because those papers, those phone calls, those notes that they've taken, they were taken as they were president of the United States. So the fact that you have a Democrat like Biden who wants to try and destroy Trump, should he choose to run again, God forbid, but if he does, why would he assert executive privilege over Trump's documents when Nancy Pelosi and Kinzinger and Cheney are trying to help him? That is, help Biden. So it is scurrilous what the courts have done so far at the D.C. circuit, at the D.C. trial level. So you'll go to the circuit and then ultimately, hopefully, the Supreme Court. But to start indicting people because the president, that is Trump, has asserted executive privilege, the issue of which hasn't been adjudicated yet, and because you have this committee that basically works for the Democrat Party and Nancy Pelosi, is really unacceptable. It's unconscionable. But none of that gets in the discussion. Instead, you get stuff like this. Go.
The House committee investigating the January 6th Capitol attack voted unanimously to advance a measure holding Donald Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, in criminal contempt over his refusal to testify. The resolution, which includes a referral to the Justice Department, is expected to get a vote on the House floor today. The measure comes as Meadows refuses to answer questions about the documents he already has handed over.
when the records raise questions, as these most certainly do, you have to come in and answer those questions. And when it's time for him to follow the law, come in and testify on those questions.
Now, that's not exactly what's going on. Notice they never go to the individual's lawyer. Why don't they bring in the lawyer for Mark Meadows? His name is George Terwilliger. George Terwilliger has been a Deputy Attorney General of the United States under George H.W. Bush. He is a well-known major law firm litigator, criminal litigator in Washington, D.C. They know who he is. And he's been trying to negotiate with this committee, is my understanding, to give information that they want, including some of the documents they just talked about. But it's never enough. And so they're trying to push it and push it and push it and pierce the veil of executive privilege and violate separation of powers because of Nancy Pelosi and the partisans on this committee. And that's not the way the system is supposed to work. That's why I call it a Stalinist Politburo, a Stalinist committee of sorts. Go ahead.
He changed his mind and told us to pound sand.
No, he didn't change his mind and tell them to pound sand. Now, here is the most dastardly of the bunch, in my view. Lynn Cheney, go ahead.
Mr. Meadows' testimony will bear on another key question before this committee. Did Donald Trump, through action or inaction, corruptly seek to obstruct or impede Congress's official proceedings to count electoral votes?
Through inaction? That would be weird. I guess I obstructed Congress through my inaction. I mean, how ridiculous is that? They have no basis for this whatsoever. Go ahead.
Members of Congress, the press, and others wrote to Mark Meadows as the attack was underway.
Now stop. I read these tweets from her, so listen very, very carefully to this. Go.
One text Mr. Meadows received said, quote, "We are under siege here at the Capitol." Another, quote, "They have breached the Capitol." In a third, Mark, protesters are literally storming the Capitol, breaking windows on doors, rushing in. Is Trump going to say something?
So, Joe, just to go back
So
through...
just to point out, and there's others, where they have Ingram and Hannity and Don Jr. saying to President Trump, you need to make a statement. What are you going to do about this, and so forth. Now, let me ask you a question. What does that demonstrate? So far, that proves the case against their narrative, right? If Donald Trump were leading an insurrection, don't you think Don Jr. would be in on it? If Donald Trump were leading an insurrection, don't you think some of his friends in the media would know about it? Rather than telling him, we got to do something about this, this is going on, and so forth and so on. You get my point? It wouldn't be the other way around. It would be, oh, things are going as planned, right? Okay, things are going as planned. Not, Dad, you need to say something about this SHIT ASAP, which is what Don Jr. did, and others wrote too. And so this is really bizarre. So they're using texts which demonstrate that people were shocked, that people were surprised, and that they were texting each other and texting the president, look what's going on, what are we going to do about this, and so forth and so on. And Mark Meadows is the chief of staff. And this stuff was sent to Mark Meadows. Sent to Mark Meadows. Does it sound like Mark Meadows was in on it? Is there anything in a single text, wouldn't they release it, that says anything that is, that demonstrates that Meadows has foreknowledge or is a participant or that the president is? Nothing. Or they would have released it already, right? Nothing. Everybody's missing the import of what dummy there Liz Cheney did, in my humble opinion. Go ahead.
Through. Those were anonymous texts from members of Congress to Mark Meadows, not anonymous to him, but we didn't hear their names there. They were Fox News hosts, some of whom went on the air that night and started in the real time.
Look at Mika Brzezinski's face. She's loving every minute of it. Don't look at Scarborough's, your face will turn to sand. But look at hers. I just love this. Go ahead.
Real time to whitewash what happened, saying this was Antifa. We see their concerns expressed to Mark Meadows about Donald Trump.
Now, they say Fox hosts have said it was Antifa. I don't remember Hannity saying it was Antifa or Laura Ingraham saying it was Antifa. They just slopped that stuff out there. The Russia collusion crowd. Go ahead.
That day. And then from his own son, Don Jr., pleading with the chief of staff to get his dad to do something.
That's the point. If you had somebody with a 4 IQ there, they'd say, wait a minute. If Don Jr.'s pleading with his dad to say something, then obviously Don Jr. didn't know about it in advance, or these Fox hosts didn't know about it in advance, nor did the president, nor did his chief of staff. Right? Because they would have talked to their friends and their compatriots. Go ahead.
This goes to the point that Mark Meadows may not be cooperating now by giving his deposition, but he already cooperated. He gave 6,000 pages worth of documents, and there's going to be much more than what we just heard yesterday in those text messages.
6,000 pages of documents, and that's what they've got? Something that I believe is helpful to the people they're trying to destroy? And he just said 6,000 pages of documents. You're going to hold him in criminal contempt because he turned over 6,000 pages of documents? You see, the so-called news lead-up to the smirk over here, and Mr. Banjo Player in Deliverance, and Mr. Doofus over here, wasn't accurate. They didn't give you the information that you need to know, what we call news. Go ahead.
Say so much about what happened that day and about the people who sent them.
Well, like those hosts who said one thing while the riots were going on and were scared for their country, and said another that night and in the weeks.
Well, what did they say that night? Where's the graphic? What did they say, Joe? Well, you know, see, he's slow off the start gate and he's slow getting back. What do I mean? Rather than giving an opinion without the factual undergirding, why don't you tell us exactly what they said that contradicts anything? Go ahead.
Mark Meadows right now is just playing to an audience of one, Donald Trump. He's already turned over the evidence. He's already halfway there to being the John Dean of January the 6th.
Oh, come on, you idiot. The John Dean. Go ahead.
Whether he wants Donald Trump to like it. But that's what Mark Meadows has always done. He's always tried to have it.
Now here we smear Mark Meadows. From a guy who couldn't make it in radio, couldn't hold his house seat, and really hasn't made it in TV. He's paid a lot of money for no ratings. Go ahead.
But, you know, Willie, what these texts show is really, it's quite reassuring to get confirmation that there are two realities. There's a reality that we all live in, that functioning adults live in, where facts, laws, realities are understood. And we...
Just remember, folks, this is the Russia collusion crowd. This is the crowd that covered up the so-called phony whistleblower and pushed that Ukraine nonsense. This is the crowd that is covered up for Hunter Biden and his laptop, Hunter Biden in China, Hunter Biden in Moscow, Hunter Biden in Ukraine, Joe Biden in China, Joe Biden in Ukraine. Oh, yeah, this is the guy that's covered up, and these are the people who've covered up all of it. All of it. The Russia collusion thing, there's your insurrection. The move to neutralize a presidential election. Pushing coups, pushing impeachments, pushing criminal investigations, pushing leaks, and on and on and on. Why do we even listen to? Get rid of these guys. Done with them. Now, let us move along, shall we? Local CBS affiliate, business owner blasts Lori Lightfoot if they're smash and grab thieves. I'm sure some of you saw this. But I want to thank the Democrat Party in America, their mayors, their city councils. I want to thank their prosecutors. I want to thank their governors. They've done a swell job. They've done a swell job of showing us how bad these people are. That is, in the Democrat Party, how radical they are, how their ideas are so destructive. And they're so destructive in the cities, they're so destructive in the states that they want to impose them on the rest of the country with their nationalization of this, that, and the other thing. Isn't it interesting? I don't know of any red state that's losing population. Some of them aren't gaining, but some of them are gaining a lot. Does anybody know of a dark blue state that's gaining population? California, losing. Illinois, losing. Michigan, losing. New York, losing. New Jersey, losing. Wow, what does that tell you? People speak with their feet. It's called federalism. It's called mobility. What states are gaining? Well, let's see. Florida, ooh. Tennessee, ooh. Texas, wow. And some others where they're relatively moderate, they don't have income taxes and so forth. But the dark blue cities and the dark blue states, people can't get the hell out of there fast enough. It's a sad day in America, and you can thank the Democrat Party. These cities are controlled hook, line, and sinker with an iron fist by the Democrat Party, by the American Marxists in these parties. And so here's a business owner in Chicago, Illinois, in one of the ritziest parts of Chicago. And take a look. Go.
It is the brazen work of thieves in broad daylight, disrupting Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood. Burglars targeting a luxury car dealership. But it was not the vehicles that these guys were after. CBS 2's Stephen Graves live near the Rolls-Royce dealership. And Stephen, the store owner's really fired up.
Marie, that is an understatement. He admitted he does not like to do TV interviews, but he wanted to talk to us today because he is fed up wanting changes at the top and fast.
To walk into my business and crash in the windows and one guy stands with a gun and we have to have this happen, enough is enough.
Rolls-Royce dealership owner Joe Perillo furious after this. The fast smash and grab happening within seconds. You see the burglar casually walk inside the Gold Coast store on Rush around noon. Workers say he and an accomplice weren't after luxury cars, instead smashing glass of a jewelry display with a hammer, getting away with several expensive watches. Store salesmen even ran after them with their guns drawn.
Absolutely. Well, you can't take something that's not yours.
Some even shielding families from the mayhem.
I mean, you take the people and you try to hide them.
Chicago police say the suspects eventually got away in a vehicle. This narrative probably sounds familiar because our recent CBS 2 reports have followed several high-end store burglaries, many along Chicago's Magnificent Mile. But this one in Oak Brook, even more shocking, showing a flash mob darting in and out quickly. Perillo wants it to stop and thinks that starts in Chicago. Cook County prosecutors and city leadership holding criminals accountable.
It's only a fool who keeps doing things the same way and expects different results. If the mayor and Kim Foxx don't do anything to get control of this, it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse.
Experts previously telling us burglaries like this could affect tourism and to make people hesitant to come downtown. That is the last thing Perillo wants in a city he says he loves and calls home.
But right now it's turning into Palookaville.
In my home city of Philadelphia, a complete disaster. It's such a disaster, we talked about this, that the former Democrat mayor, an African American, took to the pages of the Philadelphia Inquirer to write an op-ed after the district attorney, a white man, radical leftist Soros prosecutor, said, "What are you talking about? Crime's not going up in this city." So they'll take things like petty things and add it together with murder and rape and assault and say, see, crime's not going up. Everybody knows it's going up, and people don't want to go into these cities unless they absolutely must. And there's people who live in these cities who have to deal with this, So it's these white liberals that maybe some people should be focusing on, not white people generally, who share their values and their ideals and believe in family and safety and health and all the rest of it. That's what's happening here. It's these Marxists, these American Marxists. I see Black Lives Matter is endorsing criminality. You see this stuff? Black Lives Matter sticking with Smollett. Black Lives Matter doesn't give a damn about black lives. It is a Marxist, racist organization that has nothing in common with common people of any race, let alone blacks. Nothing in common with common people. Black people in this country, they don't want Marxism any more than brown people or yellow people or red people or white people. Look how we have to talk about each other. Americans don't want Marxism, red-blooded Americans. And yet this is the push dressed up as racism. So I would ask these corporatists, you happy now? You happy you backed Biden? You happy you endorsed and gave money to Black Lives Matter? that supports this sort of crap? What a bunch of jerks. What a bunch of cowards. But there's more. Statistics show epidemic of car break-ins getting worse in San Francisco. Go.
New at 11, the video that makes you ask, what is happening in San Francisco?
Now stop. San Francisco used to be a gem of a city for the whole country. People would vacation there. They'd go to plays and shows there. Some of the greatest restaurants right on the ocean. They would take boat rides there. Union Square was, you know, a hot place to be, like Fifth Avenue in New York or Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills and that sort of thing. My wife and I were there a couple of months ago. Nobody's going there. There's homeless people. There's needles. We have hotel people saying, don't make a left. You might want to make a right when you go out. So we didn't go out. You have human feces everywhere, tent cities everywhere. This is what you get when the civil society breaks down, when law and order is the enemy, and these radical American Marxist Democrats take over. Again, a prosecutor, Boudin, that name should sound familiar. His mother was a radical of the 60s, a violent radical, is the district attorney there. But even the radical leftists that populate these cities are now abhorred by this. They can't send their kids to school. They can't go to the local grocery store. The CVS and Walgreens are shutting down. Oh, really? Yeah, the civil society is burning up. That's what's happening. So even these beautiful cities, the beautiful parts of these cities, my beautiful Philadelphia, what a disaster. Go.
Kids have become so common. Look at this. No one even notices. KPIX5's Betty Yu has been digging into the newest numbers, found one neighborhood where there are almost 30 break-ins a day.
The Palace of Fine Arts is one of San Francisco's most recognizable landmarks. It's also a prime target for thieves. It's not hard to find glass littering the streets around it from multiple smash and grabs. Tourist hotspots are popular places for car burglars. Take this recent smash and grab on Grand Avenue in Chinatown. It went down within feet of bystanders. A driver gets into his car near the bottom of your screen as the thief peers into the victim's car. A pedestrian walks down the sidewalk and a woman tries to get inside a building. The burglar looks around before stealing 2 bags. The thief then goes back for more, all while people nearby carry on.
It's out of control. We have people that are doing this are breaking into cars up in Nob Hill, then they go down to Fisherman's Wharf, then they come out here, then they go to another part of the city, and the police can't chase the cars. It's considered a misdemeanor.
Alan Byard.
So stop. The police can't chase the cars. You're not allowed to own a gun. If you're one of the few who does own a gun, you're not allowed to use it to protect property. And then you have a district attorney, if you do use it to protect your property, potentially even to protect your life, like a Kyle Rittenhouse, the district attorney will go after you. Meanwhile, you're undermining the force numbers of police departments all over the country. So lawlessness, criminality, and you have so-called bail reform, which isn't bail reform. It eliminates bail effectively. All of this is the radical left, all of this, the media, all this, the Democrat Party, this confluence of these American Marxist forces and agendas, and you see the consequences of it. It's happening in immigration and the border. It's happening with our constitutional system and the courts. It's happening with our financial system. It's happening all over the place because they're trying to bring down the society, and they're succeeding. Go.
San Francisco Patrol Special Officer, part of a neighborhood police force authorized in the city charter. He patrols the marina, where he has 172 residential clients. He added 20 just in the last month. He says the #1 problem is car burglaries.
I come out here every night and I see new piles of glass.
In the month of November, city data shows there were more than 3,000 reports of larceny theft in San Francisco. The overwhelming majority of those were car break-ins. SFPD's Central District sees the highest number of smash and grabs. In fact, last month alone, there were 876 reports. That's almost 30 a day. Compare that to 442 last November. And it's still up from the year before. There were 734 cases pre-pandemic.
I've always seen a lot of glass here, so it's no surprise. It's been going on for years, and I've lived here since the 90s, and my car has been broken into.
Officer Byard said what has increased is perhaps fear and indifference when it comes to getting involved.
Yeah, I wonder why. People are beaten to a pulp, and then the same people are let out. I'll give you a perfect example. Here's the New York Post. He's the Grinch who stole your wallet. A serial pickpocket with more than 30 busts was pinched again last week while targeting unsuspecting tourists at the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, only to be dumped back on the street the next day, law enforcement sources and authorities told the Post. Gary Teasley, 65, who's been known to wear snazzy outfits, including a long, dark fur coat and fashionable hat during his alleged crimes, is so familiar to cops that they're on a first-name basis. Teasley is such an illicit pro that he also used to keep a storage locker with stolen wallets and other goods and a detailed record of the heist broken down by location and category. But the ex-con didn't even get slapped with a supervised release restriction, much less a bail, after his latest arrest. In his latest bust, Teasley was charged with allegedly trying to rob a 71-year-old tourist from Massachusetts at the holiday hotspot, his favorite haunt this time of the year. He was arrested Friday after police said they spotted him unzipping the woman's purse and reaching inside, according to a criminal complaint. We've caught him red-handed. We called him by his first name. We say, hey, Gary, don't give us a hard time. We've arrested this guy so many times we're on a first-name basis. He knows the deal, he was saying. Desk appearance ticket, the whole bail reform thing. He's a very sharp guy, $1,000 suit, skilled at his craft, a wolf in sheep's clothing. He was hauled into court Saturday on charges of fourth degree, attempted grand larceny and jostling. He was released without bail. Arrested 31 times now, and he's out. And that's a pickpocket. They're doing it with violent criminals, too. Violent criminals, too. It really is shocking. Then this in Philadelphia. Popeye's restaurant in Philly bans homeless people from entering the store. Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen franchise in Philadelphia has banned homeless people from entering its restaurant. The manager who runs the fast food joint on 15th Street and Chestnut in Center City said the new policy was put into effect after multiple homeless people came in without masks despite the city mandate. At other times, employees have had to call police, those who come in and trash the store. I mean, it's going on all over the country. There are no consequences. Well, what would you do, Mark? I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd turn the clock back. I'd muscle up police forces and make sure people knew that in my area, you're allowed to be armed to protect your family and your property, assuming you have a good reason. And that's what I would do. And I'd make sure people were going to prison. I'd put sentencing guidelines back in place that we had under the Reagan administration. Oh, they're too harsh. Oh, they're too discriminatory. Yes, they discriminate against criminals. They're blind as to race. That's why they're called sentencing guidelines for judges. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be back. And I hope you're doing well, too. I want to remind you that there's 10 days until Christmas. Hello! 10 days until Christmas. Do you have your Christmas shopping done? May I make a suggestion? Our friends at Amazon that own about everything, this guy Bezos, well, he's decided to help subsidize my book. I can't explain it, and I don't question it. I'm pleased. He's subsidizing it for you. The book retails for $28. The lowest they've discounted it for is like $16.99, something in that area. It's now $14, 50% off. Now, I don't know if they'll raise it tomorrow, the next day, or whatever. Many of you already have the book, but it's a perfect Christmas gift. It is a perfect stocking stuffer. It is a perfect book for friends and foes alike. And at $14, that's two for the price of one, quite frankly. Other stores have it too, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, BJ's, other stores still have it, so when you're doing your shopping, you can get it that way. But I'm just telling you, a little inside, 50% off. There's now over 22,000 comments. The book has 5 stars. And I wanted you to know, you'll be the first to know, it is the #1 book of 2021, fiction and nonfiction. The #1 book, period. It's #1 book sales on Amazon and everywhere else. That's thanks to you. Let's get the message out. One final big push. It's the perfect time. Rather than buy something somebody doesn't want or that's not going to last, for 14 bucks, this will last a lifetime, especially in there. And you'll be the Paul and Paulette Reveres that we need to keep pushing the message. We can't give up. This enemy, they're up 24/7. And they're lighting fuses, and they're turning over tables, and they're burning buildings, and they're doing all kinds of stuff. We need to be as resolute as possible, and I want to thank you. See you next time on Levin TV.